welcome ABStat. We are in Chapter 5 Notes on page 3, and we're talking about now how to select a simple random sample. So there's a couple steps. The first thing you want to do is a label. So you assign a numerical value to every individual in the population. And so there's a couple ways we're going to actually select them. There's two ways really. The first way is what's called table B, or also known as the random digits table. And this, I forgot to actually give you the handout on this, but it's also in the book. Or you can print it off my web page. It's under useful tables. There's the random digits table there you can print out. Okay. Or the calculator to select numbers at random is what we are looking for. Because people as humans are not actually very good at randomization. So we need to rely on other things to actually select things randomly. All right, so the stopping rule, we also need to know when we're going to stop, how many things we need to collect. So know when you should stop sampling. Identify the sample, so use the labels to identify the subjects that are selected. Okay, so we don't necessarily care how people were labeled and their number that corresponds with them. We want to know who is in the sample. That's the purpose of this. So the random digits table is a table of random digits. It's a long string of digits from 0 to 9, and they're just kind of grouped into columns of like 5 digits at a time. And the random digits table, it looks like this. So I believe it's the last page in your textbook, the very back page where the tables are. Or again, you can print it off my website, but this is what we're going to be using. So you want to grab a copy of it. So each entry in the table is equally likely to be any of the 10 digits, 0 through 9, and the entries are independent of each other. We'll talk more about why that's important when we get to talking about probability. Okay. And the random digits table makes it easy to select a simple random sample, and we should all get the same values, which is another reason why we're going to use it in class quite a bit over the calculator. So suppose I need to select a random sample of 5 students from each class. Thus, each student is going to be assigned a number from 1 to however many people you have in your class. So first period has 38 students. So if we were doing this in class, I would number everybody 1 to 38, and we would select 5 students from the class at random. For period 2, you only have 30 students in there, so we would number people 1 to 30. And then select 5 students. Okay. So for this example, we'll just number up to 38 just to make it simple. So we're going to use the random digits table to select 5 students starting at line 129. So on the random digits table, on the very left-hand side, it says what line you're on. So we know we don't necessarily always have to start at the first line. So we're going to start on line 129. It says, for this example, use the first 2 digits of the number in line 129. So that means you're just going to use the first 2 digits of each column. So on line 129, you would use numbers 36, and then jump to the next set of 5 and use 58, 68, 22, 18, 54, 00, and 08. Okay, so you're just using the first 2 digits of each of those 5 numbers. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and write those down, and we only want to use the numbers that we have for students in the class. So if we're numbering up to 38, 36 belongs to somebody. 58 is too big, 68 is too big, and then we get 22, and then 18. 54 is too big, so we skip over that. And here in this example, We didn't use 0, 0. We started at 1, so we're going to skip 0, 0. The next number we would use is 08. We got to the end of that row, and so what we do is just drop down to the next row. So on line 130, we just keep going. 69 is too big, 64 is too big, 87 is too big. We get 09 next. 84 again too big, and 06 is the next one. Oops, then we don't need 06. We only needed to select 5 people. So we stop right there at 09. Okay, and we do want to select, usually whenever you're doing a sample, you want to select 5 different people. If you get a repeated number, you want to continue on until you get 5 different people. And so if we were doing this in class, we would actually write down who the people were that were selected. That's the important part, is labeling the people in the sample, not just knowing their numbers. The other way that you can do this is using the calculator. And so to do that, here's the command for you written right here. Math, you're going to go to math, go over to PRB. Number 5 is random integer. So that's the one we're going to use. We just want to select basically counting numbers. We don't need decimals in this example. So that's why we choose random integer. So we go there. In your calculator, what this means is 1 is the number that we're starting at. We want to go up to, and really, we wanted to go up to 38 for this example. So we're going 1, 38, 5. And that should pull up 5 random digits. They may not all be different. Okay, you might have some repeats depending on what you get. And at this point, most likely, you're going to get different answers than everybody else. And so we can set the calculator so that everybody would get to the same values. But for right now, we didn't do that. And so you should probably get different numbers. We do want to select 5 different people from the class. So if you have repeats in your 5 selected numbers, use, like the 4 that are not repeated, and then just hit enter again to get just one more number. That would be the next random integer. Okay, you don't have to necessarily get 5 all in a row that are not repeated. Okay, just use 1 from the next list down. So the numbers that I got out of my calculator, which yours definitely do not have to be the same and most likely are not, I have 30, 14, 21, 22, and 3. Okay. And again, we'd want to look at who those people are in the class, who got selected in that sample of 5, not just look at the numbers of who was selected. Okay, the names are really what's the important part. We just can't do that right now. Okay, so in the next example, we are going to look at the same type of thing, but we're going to be using the 2012 Oak Ridge roster for football, varsity football. Just erase this down here, sorry. And so I just got this current football roster. We're going to use the random digits table to select 6 players. Okay? So they are numbered by their football jerseys, 2 all the way up to 88. And there's a lot of missing numbers in between there. Not every number is used. Okay, there's definitely not 88 people on the football team. And for example, if you look in the 40s, we are only using 40, 42, 44, and 45. So all the other numbers don't correspond with people. Usually we would number them in order so that we're not skipping over numbers, because it takes a little bit longer to get your sample when you have to keep skipping over numbers. So it's not necessarily how we'd want to set up an example, but this is what we're going to use. And I'm actually going to change it from using the random digits table. Instead of line 110, it takes a while to get it using that line, we're going to use line 120. So just a different line and kind of speed up the process a little bit. So in this example, we're going to use consecutive digits. Okay, so I'll write that down. And the last time that we used the table, in the last example, we did the first 2 digits. So we were looking at the first 2 digits and jumping to the next column. What we're going to do here is use consecutive digits, so numbers that are right next to each other. So when you look at line 120, the first numbers that come up are 35. Okay, and that corresponds to someone, that's Clark. issued. So, and I'm sorry if I pronounced their names incorrectly. I don't know how to pronounce them all. So, 35, that corresponds with a football player. The next number that you see, we're doing consecutive, is 47. That does not correspond with a player, so we're not going to use that one. Keep going. The next one is 65, which we do have. That is a player. Okay. 59 is the next number in the table. Okay, so again, I'm just using consecutive digits going right next to each other, every 2 digits. Next number is 72, which is Jordan Willis, so that works. Next number, 39. We do not have anybody for 39. 42 comes up, and that works for us. That's Thomas. Next one is 16, and we don't have anybody for 16. 58 is the next one. We don't have anyone for 58, so just cross that off, keep going. 50 comes up, and we don't have anybody for 50. 04, and so again, we're using double digits. So 04, that works. Justin Priest, we got him. And let's see, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need one more player. 26, that also works. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just record who is in our sample. So the numbers were just from the table, and they're their football jerseys in this case, so they do represent people, but we are interested in the names. So Clark is the first one. 65 was the next person we selected, which is Malik. My writing is terrible. 72 is Jordan Willis. 42 is Thomas. 04 Justin Priest, and then last is 26, and that is James. Sorry, okay. So that's how you are going to use the random digits table. You just go and keep going until we get the sample that we need that represents 6 different players. All right, use your calculator to randomly select 5 juniors. And unfortunately, I didn't reorder the list in terms of their age, so their grade level. They're all just mixed together. And so we have both juniors and seniors. So in your calculator for part B, what we're going to do, same calculator command that we used before. We're going to do random integers. Our numbers went from 2 to 88. And we want to select, we can look at 5 at a time. We're going to have a lot of blanks because they're either not on the football team at all, the number isn't represented, or they're not juniors. So we're going to have to look at a lot of different digits. And I'm going to start another video so we don't go too long.